Hey, if you're in the course, start the conversation, get the meeting. Make sure you check out the latest office hours. Posted it on Friday. What we talked about was the differences between great reps and being great at the things that most people are bad at and how that can impact you. I think people really got into it. At when you expose it, it seems obvious, but if it was obvious, people would be doing it, right? Because it's one of those things that we know we should be doing, but we don't do it, and then we suffer from not doing it. Today, we've got a great guest. I think you're really going to enjoy this. Too often we think that sales is this super complex thing and we have to have this gregarious, outgoing personality and, deep business acumen. Or we could just come up with a system. We could come up with a process. We could come up with the simple things that we repeat over and over again to become very effective. And I found a new genre of places where great salespeople are coming from. This week, I interviewed three people that came out of the hospitality space. Now, in hindsight, this would seem obvious, wouldn't it? But in foresight, not so much. But here you are in a job where you have to deal with people, and people typically will wait until they're upset to really express what's on their mind, where you have to, in a sense, anticipate what they want. And people are very particular about, their food and their drinks. They like it a certain way, and they expect something that they are very different from other people. So you have to adapt and be that chameleon. What does that sound like? Does it sound like sales? It sure does, doesn't it? Where there is no one cookie cutter thing, despite what the cadence tools will try and tell you. People want to connect with another person. But those basic ingredients of putting the other person first, anticipating what they want, focusing and listening, being sensitive to nonverbal cues, and just being responsive, and then that caring about the other person. In hospitality, that is the difference. Think about your favorite server, your favorite bartender, your favorite restaurant, and what do you appreciate? What do you like? And what do you dislike? You know, me and my buddy, we order a cocktail. It's the simplest cocktail in the world. There's one ingredient, but yet we tend not to explore different restaurants because they all mess it up. People don't hear what we say, they hear what they want to hear, and all kinds of craziness comes back. It's like playing telephone. Now, this is the same in sales because we think we're communicating clearly and we think we're hearing clearly, but our confirmation bias, our own internal representation of the world gets in our way. So I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. It's a great guy, a very fun conversation. We both, he's still in Boston. I came from Boston. So I rag him a little bit about Boston people, and I make fun of Boston people all the time. They're, very tribal creatures up there. And once you become part of the tribe, it's great. But until then, it's a little cold. And so we go on to that. Before we get into the interview, make sure you're checking out Co-Video. They've been a great partner of the podcast. Been with us for a couple years now. People who have been trying it, video, email, it's one of your tools, one of the ways of connecting with people. And it's not the only way, but it is a way, especially if you are a visual person, meaning that you can demonstrate who you are visually and maybe your product or what you can do for them visually. It's a great way of connecting with them. where text just isn't clear enough. They've had enormous success with auto and real estate, but also now with online. People who are doing digital ads for them and website development or security stuff. When you need to show somebody something that's short, I'm not talking about a half hour video, but something short, video's the way to do it. Go to covideo.com, tell them Brian sent you over there. Let's get into the interview. I'll sum it up at the end, and I'll give everybody an update on the office hours and the one-on-ones. Here we go.
Hey, Carl, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Yeah, hey everyone. Big fan of the show, Brian. So thanks for having me. I've been following your content for the past few years. Me and my friends love it. Quick background on me. I've been in the tech sales industry about 11 years. Prior to that, I worked in the hospitality industry, have a certification in wine. I had a DJ business, worked intern for a radio station. So I got a diverse background, and I just wanted to do this interview to show everyone. I know a lot of young kids are breaking into sales. It's a great profession, was great for my family, and you can be from any background to break in and succeed.
Well, what was that first year like in sales?
I'll tell. So basically, I bartended for Legal Seafoods, finishing my degree in my 20s, and DJ'd on the weekends, and worked for my uncle's produce distribution business on the phones. That's kind of how I started cold calling. And I met a lot of reps from tech, and they were telling me about the industry. I'm like, all right, I want to break into this, but I had to find an opportunity. So I actually took a step back financially to break into the business, and I took a tough, it was an account manager role, but BDR gig for, a smaller division of a company. I drove an hour and a half each way, didn't make much money to break into the industry, but I supported great field reps who thought highly of me, and got a referral to my next company where I was able to work for a while and train and learn and move up the ranks. So yeah, you will have to do your time as maybe a BDR, but if you just stick with the plan and work hard, you can be very successful.
Well, this is the first 2 bartenders in 1 week that I'm interviewing.
Well, bartending was great because I dealt with a lot of diverse people, and it helped me build my communication skills. And I had a lot of CEO regulars, and they gave me great business advice. And then I had a top recruiter when the last time I saw him at the bar. I go, I'm moving on. He goes, what are you going to do? I go, I'm going to go into tech sales. He goes, the advice he gave me, he goes, work hard. If you're good at it, you can write your own ticket. And I always remembered that and stuck with the plan. And it's been, I'm very happy where I'm at in my career and really enjoying it.
Yeah, because being a bartender, there's a lot of obvious human interaction, a lot of multitasking.
Yep.
A lot of reading people.
Yes, and we worked. There were high-end bars for Legal Seafoods in the airport, so we were trained to upsell wine, and it taught me the basic skills of selling, face-to-face selling, and it helps with the transition into tech sales.
Wow, at the airport.
So I met a lot of cool people. I got a lot. Me and my buddy want to write a book. I gotta get with him. We've got stories. We've got lots of stories.
I've spent quite a time at the Legal Seafood at Logan.
Yep, we used to work the Terminal B next to U.S. Airways.
Yep.
Terminal C when it was outside, and I helped open the legal test kitchen in A. So I was all over that airport. A lot of friends in and out traveling. College friends used to hang out. My uncle would come in on business trips. So it was a great experience. It was my single days, and I wanted a career once I settled down with my wife, and that's why I went into tech sales. But I was actually offered a liquor distribution job or tech sales, and I chose tech sales. But I know I have a lot of friends in the distribution industry, and they're doing very good right now in a pandemic. Alcohol sales are through the roof. So
I bet. And how did you adapt to the bigger company, going from hospitality, your manager?
Well, I worked for a corporate. Legal Seafoods is a pretty corporate company. It's not just a restaurant business, right? It was the seafood industry. Roger Berkowitz, I learned a lot. I was able to sit on his advisory board and present. I actually presented to 100 people in focus groups, and I was the head presenter, and we won. So it helped build my presentation skills. He actually he's a Harvard grad. So he knows how to run a business. So I learned a lot just watching him run his business and doing the trainings there. So I think that helped when I went over to the corporate world. So the first lady who hired me, I don't want to get into the company names just out of agreements and NDAs and all that stuff. But the lady hired me. She goes, we like that you worked for a brand. So that's why we're taking a chance on you. So working for the brand Illegal Seafoods, when I bartended, the corporate structure was very helpful when I broke into the tech industry.
And how about as far as learning the technology?
I was always into tech, computers as a young age. When I was DJing, we didn't have Apple. So I was my dad used to burn my CDs and my playlists. And, you know, like now I have a Sonos in my room. I'm like, where was this 15 years ago? I wish I had this technology. So technology always fascinated me. I knew it was always changing. So once I got, you know, my next step at the bigger company, they provided a lot of training, and I took the training seriously, and I still do, right? You always want to get better in tech. You always want to learn the latest and greatest in technology. Right now I'm learning how to code. It's always something I wanted to do. I'm going through coding boot camp right now. And after that, I'm going to take some coding classes. So yeah, you can always advance your career. You can always learn more, and you can always get better.
Wow. What language? Python or?
Yeah, they got us on Python right now. So I'm going to learn the basics. And then once I'm through that, I've got an app idea I'm going to create. And then I found some online classes after that through Duke University that I'm planning on taking.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And what do you like about sales?
You told me to, you know, just, you know, be myself on this and what am I passionate about. So the things I'm passionate about a lot of things, but if I had to pick one thing, people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so many businesses have let me in and shared, you know, what they're looking to do, their ideas. Sometimes we win a deal. Sometimes we don't, the deal doesn't make sense, but all the knowledge I've learned on how other businesses operate, my ultimate goal is to start my own business eventually down the road. And I'll probably take everything I learned through all the discovery and the meetings with these companies and the transformations we did, is going to be helpful when I start my business. So people, that's why I'm doing this today. I miss hugging my friends at a happy hour. So I'm throwing this on social media so everyone can just rag on me in the holiday season and we can have some fun, because social media, I went to school for it. I work at it. It's a way for me to connect with my friends, especially in the pandemic. So you can catch me on LinkedIn in the day. You can catch me on Instagram at night. And you can see my kids on Facebook through my wife's account, all my family and friends, and that's how we stay connected.
Well, you have the advantage in that Boston, everyone's so friendly and welcoming.
Well, you're a Boston guy. That's why.
I can say that, right?
Yeah. You're a fellow. What do they call us? Massholes? Can I say that anymore? So yeah, no. Actually, my new company, we use Slack, and it's been extremely beneficial because I just started a new job and I've made so many friends through Slack. We're setting up mountain bike rides in the spring, a potential golf outing. So social media is critical to business. It was in the past, and it's 10 times critical now in a pandemic to stay connected. So, and they like to call us massholes on the Slack channel. So.
And do you sell only into New England, or is it everywhere? Yeah.
So the new role I'm starting, I'm going to cover East Coast accounts. I'm training right now, and we'll have my territory in January. But prior to that, I was focused on the healthcare vertical, and I traveled all over before the pandemic. But I got to meet a lot of cool people in cool places. I know you're in San Fran now. I got great friends there. I miss my trips out there. I got a high school friend there. I used to hang a couple of days, go to a Giants game. I'm looking forward to that again. I had the opportunity to travel to Amsterdam a couple of years ago at my last company. Well, what an experience that was. So I love to travel. I took a territory in the Central. I used to jump planes every week. So I miss traveling, seeing new things. I'm more of an adventurer, I'd say. So I'm looking forward when things get back to normal and I can go see my customers face to face.
And what do you think you do better than other reps or different than other reps?
I gave advice to a sales team trying to break in. You got to have a plan, right? You just can't call people. I'd rather take a week, right? I'll get my territory. I'll spend a week on the territory plan through data and statistics. And it's all about time management, right? You put it on there, lazy reps are the best. They are. You got to qualify early. You got to push it away if it's not a deal. And you got to move on to where you're going to get the revenue. It's all about time management, having a strategy and making yourself better. You got to take the training seriously. You've got to know the trends. You have to wear the customer's shoes. Don't show up to a meeting unprepared, especially if you have a CEO. You should prep for a day, know what's going on with the company, know the value you can bring. A CEO might give you 20 minutes. You better make that 20 minutes worth his time or you're not going to get his time again. So it's preparation, it's work. and learning from others. I've had so many great VPs that took chances on me. I've had some that passed on me, and I appreciate that too, because it just put a chip on my shoulder and made me work harder. So it's all love here, and don't take things personal. It's a tough business. Just stay with the plan. You're gonna have good quarters. You're gonna have bad quarters. Be a great teammate. So a couple stories, like one of my old teammates, we golf every week. He finally got his deal after 2 years, worked for a different company. It text me, hey, we share advice. That's the stuff, guys I worked with before I root for. My BDR calls me over break. He got his big deal at Amazon. Like, he worked under me. I helped train him. That's just as important to me as me closing deals, seeing the people that, I worked with successful in the field. So I just wish everyone well in this industry. You can do very well if you work hard, and it can help your family and transform your life.
Yeah. And other than the people, what motivates you?
I want to retire early. So the harder I work now. Yeah, I just met with my financial advisor. So I turned 41 in January. I'm done at 55. My stretch goal, I would like to retire at 50 and play golf every morning and coach high school football. That's my goal.
Yeah. You got kids?
Yeah. So I've got a son who's 5, daughter who's 4, Jacob's 5, Gracie's 4, Quinn is 2. We have 2 dogs. So the Lombardi household is very full, especially in the pandemic. And my strategy today with you was they're all going to be gone. We're going to do it in the morning. I'm going to have a quiet house. We have 15 inches of snow outside. They're all downstairs. This morning's been a complete crapshoot. I've been shoveling till 6 a.m., but it's all good. We got the earbuds in. So if we have to cut this short and the house catches on fire, you know why. My kids are probably doing something.
I've heard a lot of reps want to retire early, but I haven't seen many do it.
So it's all about, you got to manage your money, right?
Yeah. But they were able to. It's just like they didn't have a purpose. I think you've got this purpose outlined.
I'll stay in tech as long as tech will have me, but if I can just invest my money well and, just spend my time giving back to the community and playing golf, my number one passion is golf. Second is football, and follow my passions. But I'll probably still do some consulting on the side, and help companies, startups use my experience, maybe do some training. I actually had some time off, parental leave when the pandemic hit to get my family in order. And I spoke to some young kids, sales teams trying to break in, and it was enjoyable. The time I spent with them, they're asking questions and eager to learn. So that's something I'd probably be interested in doing later down the road.
And when you're talking to them, do you have a sense of who will rise and who will fall?
Yeah. You can kind of look at the room and the ones who ask.
I don't need names. I'm like looking for characteristics.
Well, one kid on the Zoom, he asked a lot of questions and took a lot of good notes, and they were great questions. You can tell he's
thinking about
excited. He's excited. And I was fortunate enough to win a sales award. So my uncle asked me to speak to them, and he was excited. And I was like, guys, just ask me any questions if you need help. And my uncle's like, that was awesome. They're sick of listening to me every Friday on a Zoom just to have you and share your experience. And I told them the same thing I'm telling you. You guys need a plan. I go, do you guys have your business plan? They all looked at me like, I go, you got to build the plan. Now's the time too, right? We're kind of trapped here. We're doing the best we can. Customers still need to buy. We need to be strategic, do things virtually, but now's the time to build your plans. Do some training courses. I do them online on my iPad. Like after my kids go to bed, couple hours, iPad's right there. I put my headphones in, even if they're watching YouTube Kids. They love YouTube Kids now. It's driving me nuts. I'll put my earbuds in and just kind of sit next to them on my iPad and just learn about the tech industry.
That's it. I think the plan is so critical because today, you open the CRM, everything looks the same, right? It's hard to tell what is better than the other thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So people just go linearly, top to bottom, which is the worst thing to do.
I learned when I was younger, but when I first broke into the field, I was trying to run everywhere and do too much. And my VP sat me down and goes, Kyle, pick your top 10 accounts, spend your time there the rest of the year, and you will succeed. I followed his advice and I blew up my number that year. It was a big year for me. Don't try to take on too much. Speak to all your customers, but qualify early. Right. And then if they're not ready to buy, set them up in some webinars, some educational. Right. Don't bog them down with your SC. Right. We need the SCs on the calls where we're pushing deals forward. You just got to learn how to manage. Right. It's going to be a little hectic. You got to have a system. Everyone's system's different. Like I run a weekly system. Mondays, all my admin work. I don't set up customer calls. People are tired. They're up watching their fantasy team on Sunday Night Football. Unless we have to, I'll always put one on for the customer. I like to start my call. I like to do customer meetings Tuesday through Thursday.
Yep.
Mondays and Fridays if we have to, but Monday's a good day to like get your forecast in order, get your plan in place for the week. What am I going to do around prospecting? What am I going to do around deal management, pipeline movement? Usually we do a team meeting. We get together as a team, brainstorm ideas, and then I like to stack my calls on Tuesday. Tuesday's a great day. Everyone's refreshed.
Right. Warmed up.
Then you can stack if there's a follow-up call. Hey, all right, we'll follow up on Thursday. Then Fridays, we're actually doing something at my new company. No meeting Fridays unless you have to because of Zoom fatigue. So take that as a day to build your plan for the following week, or look at what you did this week and look at the month. But or educate yourself. Block out 2-3 hours of just taking education classes to learn product. Maybe networking on social media with your customers. I told them, I go, what's your social media plan? They all looked at me. I go, yeah, get a LinkedIn page, follow every company you want to sell to, learn the industry. And when something cool happens to the company, comment. Wow, this is great. I go, what are you guys doing for your community? What do you mean? You got to give back to your community because then you'll start meeting people and then people buy off people they like.
See, I think a lot of people just want the stimulus response, right? It's like, what am I going to eat today?
Sales is a plan. You got to work at it, but if you work at it and put the plan in place,
it can be momentum.
It can be, I grew up in sales. My dad was old school sales, jumped a plane every week, sold manufacturing equipment to New Balance, Louisville Slugger. I used to get bats and shoes. That's how I know those brands. But he really had a hustle. He didn't have the technology we have today. I tell people we're very lucky we can do our jobs in the pandemic. Like, customers need to digitally transform. We have a huge opportunity ahead of us. We're very fortunate. And back in the day, we just didn't have this technology to do our jobs. We didn't have social media. Social media is a great way to prospect. That's where you're going to get most of your leads these days. And then they're going to turn into calls and emails.
That's it. Now, I always thought I would be strong at what other people were weak at.
Okay.
Like that planning, time management. Most reps suck at it.
Yeah. Well, it's a work in progress too. I was fortunate when I after the first job, I went to a larger company and I started as an inside rep, but I was very fortunate. I mapped to a field of 5 senior field sales reps who've been in the industry 20 years. I sat on all their deal calls. I watched a Mattel deal take 2 years for $9 million go down, and I sat on every call and listened to how the field rep did it. And I took notes and just listened and learned and did the trainings. And that 2 years was so valuable for the rest of my career because I learned from the best in the business.
Yeah. And I think a lot of reps don't get that today because they're working for somebody with less than 5 years experience, might have come out of the tornado, one of the big brand companies.
Reach out to someone on LinkedIn with experience. Be like, hey, if people write me notes all the time, I'm like, yeah, I jump on a 30-minute call with people who just want to chat. I'll be like, listen, this isn't a fit for me, but I might know someone. I've worked in healthcare. This is what I'm seeing. And then we become friends and we share ideas. And maybe 10 years from now, we're sitting in a boardroom and thinking of a business idea or helping businesses together. That's how you got to think about it. So when I broke into sales, sorry to cut you off, Brian.
Go ahead.
My uncle was a sales trainer. He goes, read this book. So it was Jeffrey Gitomer, The Little Red Book of Selling, right? I started there with that, my first book. And a quote he said, he goes, it's not just hard work. It's not just smart work. It's called network. And I always remembered that. And I worked at LinkedIn and I knew network was important. And I always prioritized building a strong network because later on, you might need to make a job change. Like your network is going to be your reference. You're going to need 8 to 10 references to get in these good companies. So right now, you really want to build your network and focus on your network. Smart work and hard work are extremely important, but you got to have a strong network to succeed.
Right. Because people don't work on their network until they need it. And that's the worst time to work on it.
I consider it a job. So I scrub LinkedIn a couple times a day in my downtime. I like Instagram at night. I keep in touch with my friends where my buddies, I'll give a shout out to my buddy, Kevin Keller Photography. He's in San Fran. We grew up together. He goes, I was kind of bored in the pandemic. I had some time off. He goes, get into photography. Sent me videos. So now I got my new iPhone. We take pictures. We send them to each other on Instagram. We edit them. I love golf. I take great pictures of the golf courses. The golf courses appreciate it because they're getting publicity on Instagram. Yep. So I kind of turned a hobby in a way to still connect with my friends that I can't see. Yeah. And we do it all on social media, Brian. Everything's going to go social media.
Well, that's it, because everybody thinks I have like a film crew where I walk around, and it's all staged and written out. It's like, no, I'm just riffing. I'm walking around, working out. I've got my iPhone on a little selfie stick, and an idea pops into my head.
That's all. So my buddy has a degree in film. We went to UMass together, Amherst. I did work for him. I used to interview people on campus. He'd film it. He actually got a film degree. I just did it as a side thing, just to, for fun. So I'm overthinking this. I go, listen, I'm starting a new job. Do I need cameras? He goes, no, man. He worked for Apple. He goes, you got a MacBook? That's the best camera you can have. He goes, you got an iPhone? I wish I could get the new iPhone. Can't afford it right now. He goes, that's the best camera on the market. Embrace it. So I take video of my kids, put it on Instagram so my aunt and uncle can see it. My cousins can see it. And it's all through an iPhone. I love Apple. I have a MacBook, an iPhone, 2 sets of earbuds, wired and wireless, and I can do my job.
Yeah. And even if you can't afford it, take the loan out, because getting the gear, because you got to think like an entrepreneur. And I think you've got an entrepreneurial, certainly, background.
Yeah. I grew up in a business type family, and I had some challenges. My dad got sick when I was in college, so I had to grow up very quickly and I remember moving into my first apartment with the last 600s in my bank account. I'm like, hey, I got to get this done. But it was the best thing for me because it just makes me hustle, and I have a chip on my shoulder. And that's probably why I've been successful in tech sales, because it's not easy, right? Some years are tough, and I had great mentors. And I mean, one of the VP, we hit a happy hour. He was a field when I was young. He goes, Carl, you're going to do great. He goes, just don't let the highs get too high. Don't let the lows get too low. And it's true, right? It's going to be some tough quarters. You just keep grinding, stick with the fundamentals. Good things will come.
And I think that is a good point, because, the grit is part of it, but, the highs go to your head.
Oh, yeah.
And the lows go to your heart, right? You're like,
well, I was a young gun, working for a big company, closing deals. I thought I was a hot shot. Now I'm older now. And especially in this pandemic, it put things in perspective, right? Really, it's all about teamwork in sales. Be a great teammate. Well, now we need teamwork more than ever, right? So I'm always there to help. It's my sister's a social worker. She always embedded in my head, right? Pay it forward, pay it forward, pay it forward. And that's what you got to do in the sales industry. People are happy to help. You just got to, find mentorship, reach out. Hey, I'm looking to learn. Yeah, throw 30 minutes on my calendar. Most seasoned sales reps will do that. They've done it for me, and I pay it forward and try to do it for the next generation.
Yeah, and just be prepared with questions, real issues, and open to getting feedback.
Yeah, exactly.
Not rationalizing why nothing will work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's network's extremely important, Brian. You know that. You've been in the business for a while.
Yeah. And where would you like to take your career next? I mean, you want to go into leadership, or you like being a rep, or?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about my new opportunity with my new company. I'm really going to embrace it. I'm looking forward to, I've had a little time off. I'm looking forward to getting back in the game and digging and scraping. Eventually I want to lead a team, but I really want to learn the company, learn the product, earn my stripes in the field. But yeah, definitely. I'm looking for a leadership role, and my ultimate stretch goal is I want to own my own business someday. So I'm constantly brainstorming ideas, thinking of business plans I want to write. My uncle always asks me, he goes, when are you going to start your own business? I go, I'm not ready yet, but we'll get there. We'll get there when the time's right. So now I'm excited. I want to learn to code. So I'm going to try to do that. And, maybe I create the next application that changes the golf industry. That's my idea. And I golf every day and generate revenue off that application. That's an idea I have today.
Yeah. Cool. Hey, I appreciate your time today, Carl. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
On LinkedIn, Carl Lombardi, you'll see me on this thing. I'll post my LinkedIn. I don't have it on offhand, but I'm easy to find. I love Instagram now. I'm building my friend network. Carl Lombardi 7 Instagram, Carl Lombardi 7 @gmail. I love networking. Younger reps, if you ever want to throw time on my calendar, I'm more than happy to help. And I'm always looking to give back to my community. Where I give my time is the Multiple Sclerosis Community Foundation. So I was planning a golf tournament to raise money. Unfortunately, the pandemic held that back. This summer it might happen. So look for promotions on LinkedIn and Instagram. Love people to join, even if they can't get there, donate. What we do with the money, multiple sclerosis affected my family hard. So we give back to families who didn't prepare for this. We buy ramps for their homes. We buy vans to transport them, wheelchairs to make their life easier. So that's where I give my time, but I'm open to volunteering with other people and networking where we can give back to the community, especially in these trying times. I think it's important. We're all very fortunate in the tech industry. We know that, and we all should give back.
Carl has a great mindset. I think that view on sales, on people, on process, on a system is incredible. And I think that the two major things that I got out of interviewing great salespeople is one, that outward mindset. And that it takes a while to develop. It's because we're naturally and obviously inward mindset. It's a very critical shift. And everyone thinks, oh, yeah, I know that. It's not knowing it. You can know it. It's do you do it? The mindset and so much of sales, people get comfortable with the knowing. We all know how to do a sit up. We all know how to do a push up. We all know how to drink green juice. Do we do it? That's the critical part and the hard part. The knowing is the easy. You can watch a YouTube video, listen to a podcast, read a blog, and now you know it. But if you don't do it, what good's the knowledge? And when you build a system, when your weeks look similar, all of a sudden it becomes a habit, and it takes it out of that expensive cognitive part of our brain and puts it into the automatic part of our brain, which is a critical distinction. And something that I learned pretty early in my career because I hated wasting time, and I was just exhausted by the end of the day. If every day was a new adventure, you'd be exhausted. And I've kind of come up with this metaphor. You ever watch MacGyver? Well, we all know the type of show or movie like Mission Impossible. Like Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise gets thrown into this impossible situation, and somehow, some way, he gets out of it. Now, that's a way a lot of people look at sales. And if you're good at that and you like it and it's your style, fine. But most of us feel like MacGyver, but we don't have the tools or the techniques, and we fall off the building. We can't get out of the trunk. The bomb does blow up, and with us. And instead, what we should be thinking about is more like builders and architects, meaning that builders and architects have a plan, have a structure, have a process, have systems and standards that they put together. And they don't do it ad hoc. Now, if MacGyver or Mission Impossible had to build a house, in the movies it would work, but nowhere else would it work. And if you take that MacGyver mentality and you put it into selling, it can work, and I've seen it work, but it's not really repeatable. And that's kind of the artisan part of selling. Because what do? We all want to listen and take the script of a great cold caller. And then we apply the script and it doesn't work. Does it mean the script is bad? No, the script worked for someone. The joke works for somebody. The pickup line works for somebody. The story works for somebody, but it didn't work for us. And the distinction is the difference between art and just knowledge and facts. And this is the part that we kind of fight in sales. So what do? you have to build your own process. Your own process, system, and approach is your silver bullet, or the thing that's closest to a silver bullet in sales. Now, you can take somebody else's, but you kind of have to mold it to your own. It's like I keep using the analogy of comedy. Now, we can all sit down and write down Chris Rock's jokes or whoever you think is hilarious, and then go tell our friends at a party that joke. And they kind of politely smile. One might laugh, maybe somebody you have rapport with, but it falls short. Is it because the joke isn't funny? Clearly, the joke works for, I think Chris Rock is probably the funniest person I know. But I'm not Chris Rock. The same is true with a recipe book. Now, the analytical part of us as salespeople keep looking for the recipe, and the recipe is part of it. But we're not building houses, okay? We need to have that metaphor and have our own system. We're dealing with people. And this is why AI is, at best, a hint with people, because people are different. How often is your Netflix suggested movies spot on? With me, it's like, maybe 50%. Maybe, oh yeah, they get the genre. YouTube's a little better, but they're really just showing me the same thing by different people. It's somewhat interesting, but what I want is the next level of that topic that I'm looking at. My point here is that we are dealing with people. And I think the hospitality metaphor works well. Why? Because we are all customers of hospitality, meaning whether it's retail, grocery store, delivery service, any kind of interaction with another human being. We all kind of have the perception that they should be able to anticipate our needs, read our minds, do the obvious thing that we believe is obvious. And they're thinking just the opposite. They're thinking like, oh, well, how hard is it? I got you what you said. You said this, I got it. Well, where are we missing? As salespeople, we've got to have that outward mindset to try and understand the other person's perspective. And it is a skill that needs to be developed. And in Start the Conversation, Get the Meeting, the epiphany that a lot of people are finding, especially managers, if that you come from or you're selling a product that people understand. They understand both the problem that the product solves, the product, and the company. Then your cold outreach, being personalized and relevant, might be enough. Most of us are not that. Most of us are selling something that the problem, the exact problem, not the category, not the keyword association with the problem, needs to be conversed, needs to be discussed, needs to be explored for you to understand. And if we aren't able to do that, the only way that cold outreach works is like advertising, where you happen to hit somebody at the right time. Now, we're all kind of victims of the retargeting that we see today online. If you go onto Instagram or Facebook or even Google and you're curious about something, a car, a piece of electronics, whatever it is, whatever you happen to be interested in. What you notice is as you go across the internet, the little people who sell that stuff start to post ads to you. Now, if you're in market, that might be valuable. But if you were just curious, if you're just browsing, if you're just looking, it becomes annoying. Now, in B2B sales, what we have to do is start where the other person is. And most likely, they're not in active pain. They're in latent pain, if any, and may not even be there yet. We have to activate that. We have to have a conversation with them. And that requires a level of humility and understanding of how other people work and a step by step process, because the cold call, the cold email, not working so good, is it? So you have to start a conversation to get a meeting. And that is a skill and it takes time. And the outline of it, and people fight it. Why do they fight it? Because it's not direct enough. Well, sometimes direct works and sometimes direct doesn't work. And the problem with direct is if you get put into the rep zone, the sales rep zone, you know that zone. That's the zone where I know what you're up to, Buster, and I know what you want, and I got an eye on you. That's not a good zone to be in, because then nothing you say is believed or taken as fact or even considered. You're a commercial. You are that commercial that comes on when the show becomes interesting. And now I have to suffer through 3 minutes of it. And I go to get something to drink, or I fast forward, or whatever you do to avoid that. We don't want to be there. What we want to be is that person who we want to talk to. We want to engage with. We want to understand. We want to be that bartender who has something interesting to say, that's interested in us, that's interesting, not just interested. We need to be able to build a conversation. And this is a talent, a skill that in today's world is missing, yet insanely critical. We're all in the let's come up with the great messaging. That's marketing. And yes, it can work in sales once you have activated their curiosity about the problem to solve. And this is science and art. It's not just one and it's not just the other. If you've been doing it forever, maybe you've gotten to the artist level. And if you have, congratulations. If you haven't, okay, what do you do? Do you sit around and get rejected all day? Or do you build a conversation? Go to b2brevenue.com, check out the courses. This is how they work. I've got a frequently asked questions video there. It's also the video that's on the homepage of the YouTube channel. You can watch it. It's about 10 minutes long, I think. Answers pretty much every question I get. The most common question is, which course is right for me? Okay, this should be pretty straightforward. If your pipeline, look at your pipeline. Is it real? Is it full? Is your calendar pretty populated with people that you want to talk to and want to talk with you? If it isn't, start the conversation, get the meetings, the course for you. If you happen to be able to get stuff started, have great first meetings, have good discovery calls, have good conversations, but the deal isn't either small, starts over, or it gets marginalized, or takes too long, winning the complex sale is the course for you. And guess what? When's the best time to start? Is the second. The best time was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. You can keep putting it off. Yeah, right. Have a gap year. Go ahead. Everyone loves the gap year. And the gap year turns into the gap decade. It turns into the gap career. And all of a sudden people wake up and they're like, well, I don't have my retirement account fully populated. I'm kind of burnt out. And, people don't want to hire me. Well, guess what? You have to prevent that. You have to keep your game sharp. You have to come in all the time, 100%. Because sales is a lot like being a professional athlete, except for the pay isn't. Oh, it's almost as good. Meaning that you're only as good as your last performance. How well you did last season counts a little bit, but after a few games, it goes away immediately. And guess what? In sales, we feel that pretty much at the end of every month, quarter, and year. People are like, okay, here's your plaque. What have you done for me lately? Here's your new comp plan. Here's your new territory. Show me that it was you, not the situation. That's what we face. I faced it my whole life. And one of the key motives of going out on my own. That reset is probably the biggest challenge mentally for the top performers, because we naturally would like some compounding. We don't want a fresh start every 12 months. We want to build off of what we've done. And maybe MacGyver, here we come. Tom Cruise, get to work, buddy. That's it. I appreciate everybody listening. Make sure you're checking out the other podcasts, the Sales Leadership Show. It's a great podcast. I try and find the best sales leaders in the world. If you want to get into leadership, or you want to hear what great leaders say and do differently, or you're looking to work for a great leader, look for a great leader, then a great company. Because you can be at the greatest company in the world, but if you've got a bad manager, there's pretty much nothing worse. Because a bad customer comes and goes. If the company is bad, you probably don't even want to get a job there, and that's kind of obvious. But if you have a bad manager, what do? Do you try and transfer? Do you try and get another job? But if you have a great manager at a mediocre company, and I've had that, and that's not bad. I've had bad managers at good companies, and there's nothing worse than a bad manager, because you're kind of blocked. They are the window to upper management about your performance. If you're doing really well, they can marginalize it. If you're struggling, they could either magnify you and help you, but they don't, because they're out for themselves. A great manager is critical, because guess what great managers do? They go and find great companies to work for, and they want to keep great reps working for them. That mafia strategy, meaning going around following the boss, is something that I've seen work very well repeatedly. And that's one of the big challenges in sales. You have a couple good years, but things change. And the person who can make things work for you is your manager, right? The company, they kind of tend to look at us all the same, but a manager can really magnify it. So check out that show, the B2B Revenue Leadership, where I interview CEOs, CROs, and CMOs all the time. If you're interested in those topics, B2B Revenue Leadership. The last one is Sales Questions, Brutally Honest Answers. It's a daily show. If you're more into the tips and tricks, that's your appetite, or you only have 5 or 10 minutes a day to get a little plug, a little different perspective on sales, a little Q&A mostly. You like that? Little tips, tricks. You like that? Little action. I want some action, Brian. Give me some actionable insights. That's what that podcast is all about. This show is about hearing from the best salespeople in the world and dissecting what they do differently so that you can bring your game to the next level. That's my mission. Thank you. If you see my stuff on LinkedIn, give it a little like, a little comment, a little share. That's all I ask. I don't need a review on the show. If you want to, I'd appreciate it, of course. But, getting the word out is really what I need your help with, because word of mouth is the best marketing. And you guys, you're not only the best in sales, you're the best in marketing. Here we go. Bye.
Find out where the traps are. Find out how to add direction, momentum, and control to your deals and close them. Instead of looking at it like a black box, checking in, dealing with one person, trying to understand why the CFO kicked it back, why legal isn't moving forward, how to get the board to approve it on the first go around. We've gotten 7-figure deals through like magic with this course, and you get to hear the deal progression, get to see how they did it. What's better? And no one's judging you. No one knows who you are. No one knows what you're selling. No one cares. It's all about getting deals done, staying away from tips and tricks, and focusing on strategy. So make sure you check it out, b2brevenue.com. Make sure you listen to the other podcasts, Sales Questions, Brutally Honest Answers. the B2B Revenue Leadership Show, and the Sales Leadership Show, my newest show. Get enough shows? Okay. If you see my stuff on LinkedIn, please give it a little thumbs up, a little like, a little comment, a little share. I'd appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.